Today, we are going to talk about what we know of Prince Philip's funeral. 2 months before his 100th birthday, the longest-serving royal consort in British history died in Windsor Castle at the age of 99 on the morning of 9th April 2021. Prince Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh and the husband of Queen Elizabeth II, had been suffering from health issues for a few years now. Though the royal family did not disclose details of the cause of death, the official statement said that he died peacefully. His funeral took place on the 17th of April 2021, and according to reports, the Duke had indicated wishes for a smaller funeral. Arrangements were still made to the plan to bring his service in line with COVID-19 regulations, including quarantine for members of the Duke's family traveling from abroad. Before we go any further, remember to smash that like button and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. Let's carry on. Longest-serving royal consort. Prince Philip served as the royal consort for 69 years, 2 months, and 3 days. The next is Princess Charlotte, wife of King George III, who served as royal consort for 57 years from 1761 to 1818. No one else on this list crossed 25 years. The prince served from 1952, when Queen Elizabeth II exceeded her father, King George VI. He married Elizabeth in 1947 when he was Prince of Greece and Denmark, and was later elevated to the Prince of the United Kingdom in 1957. He retired from royal duties in 2017 at the age of 96, having completed over 22,000 solo engagements and almost 5,500 speeches since 1952. In addition to being the longest-serving royal consort, he was also the longest-living male member of the British royal family. The death of the Duke initiated Operation Forth Bridge, a plan detailing procedures including the dissemination of information, national mourning, and his funeral. Of hospitals and conditions. The prince had seen a few hospital stays since 2012, when he was first admitted for bladder infection. The next was in 2013, when he had to go for an abdomen surgery. He also underwent a hip replacement surgery in 2018. And finally, in February 2021, he was first admitted as a precautionary measure and underwent a successful procedure for an existing heart condition. He was discharged in March and came back to Windsor Castle, so this would not come as a surprise that the prince had planned his funeral. He wanted his funeral to be a small but symbolic occasion for all that he stood for in his life. Hence, from the hearse to the units acting as pallbearers had their unique distinction with the late prince. Keep watching to know more. Philip the Dantopedalic. Prince Philip was known for his sporting acumen, but he was also respected, albeit sometimes misunderstood, as a down-to-earth person. His ability to make people comfortable around him by cracking jokes even in public was sometimes criticized. He once said that he lived by the policy of opening his mouth to put his foot in it, which he jokingly said is called Dantopedology. An avid polo player and an expert at carriage driving, he was also a licensed pilot. With more than 5,000 hours of flight when he retired in 1997 after 44 years. It is these attributes of being in the public eye constantly for years on end that may have led to him wanting a quiet send-off, with only the people close to him attending it. So what message do you think Prince Philip's funeral sent to the world? Please leave your answers in the comment section below after the video. For now, let us continue. The royal in control. Born into the Greek and Danish royal families, Prince Philip was born in Greece. When he was just 18 months old, his family was exiled from the country. From his mother's side, he was the nephew of Lord Louis Mountbatten. He was educated in France, Germany, and Great Britain, and after his studies, he joined the Royal Navy in 1939 at the age of 18. During the Second World War, he served with distinction in the British Mediterranean and Pacific fleets. The prince left active military service when Elizabeth became queen in 1952, having reached the rank of commander, and was made a British prince in 1957. It was from July 1939, when he joined the Royal Navy, that he began corresponding with the 13-year-old Princess Elizabeth, whom he had first met in 1934. Prince Philip was known for his charm and was linked to a number of women, including Osla Benning, with whom he worked at Bletchley Park. When they visited the Royal Naval College in Dartmouth, Philip was asked to show the king's daughters, Elizabeth and Margaret, around. The young Elizabeth instantly fell in love with Philip, and in 1946, Philip asked the king for his daughter's hand in marriage. The king agreed, provided the formal engagement be postponed till April next year, when Elizabeth would be 21. Before his marriage in November 1947, in July he dropped his Danish and Greek titles and styles and became a naturalized British citizen by adopting his maternal grandparents' surname, Mountbatten. Considering the prince to be in control of his life, even his funeral was one he felt the necessity to be involved with. The prince was deeply involved in the organization of the event, which was years in the planning. Before the ceremony, his coffin was moved on Saturday afternoon from a private chapel in Windsor Castle to the castle's inner hall, where prayers were said. The ceremony was rich with symbolism and nods to Philip's life of service to the royal family and to Britain. The Grenadier Guards, a centuries-old regiment of the British Army, which the Duke of Edinburgh served as a colonel for more than 4 decades, placed his coffin on a hearse that the prince helped design. The vehicle, a modified Land Rover Defender, then led a small procession towards St. George's Chapel, also on the grounds of Windsor Castle. The process of designing the hearse began 18 years ago, and tweaks were still being made up to 2019. The open-top rear section was custom-made to Philip's specifications, and the original vehicle was repainted dark bronze green, typical of military use, at his request. Philip served in the Royal Navy, seeing combat during World War II, and his naval cap and sword were placed on his coffin before the funeral service. The coffin was draped in his personal flag, which pays tribute to his Greek heritage and his British titles. A variety of other military groups were represented during the procession, and a team of Royal Marines carried his coffin into St. George's Chapel. The ceremony for Prince Philip was highly unusual, in part because coronavirus restrictions meant that it had to be scaled back, but also because it followed a very public airing of a family rift. Members of the royal family, Philip's 4 children, Charles, Anne, Andrew, and Edward, and some of his grandchildren, including William and Harry, walked in a somber procession behind his coffin as it was driven to the chapel. As is custom, no family members delivered a eulogy, but the Right Reverend David Connor, Dean of Windsor, who conducted the funeral service, spoke of the many ways in which his long life has been a blessing to us. We have been inspired by his unwavering loyalty to our Queen, by his service to the nation and the Commonwealth, by his courage, fortitude, and faith, he said. Our lives have been enriched through the challenges that he has set us, the encouragement that he has given us, his kindness, humor, and humanity. Pandemic rules in Britain meant that the funeral was pared down, with adjustments including a limit of 30 guests at the church service. The Queen and the select family members in attendance all wore masks and were seated 6 feet apart in the chapel. But the subdued service reflected not only the reality of life in a pandemic, but also Philip's own wishes for the ceremony, Buckingham Palace said. In the procession, members of the royal family with honored military titles wore suits displaying their medals rather than uniforms, apparently in deference to Prince Harry, who was forced to give up his military titles when he stepped away from royal duties. The Queen arrived at the chapel by car. Before the service began, there was a national minute of silence. There was much speculation about how the family dynamic would play out, as the funeral will be the first time that Harry has returned to Britain since stepping down as a senior royal. The service also came just weeks after he and his wife Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, gave a scathing interview to Oprah Winfrey in which they laid bare their problems with the royal family. The funeral service lasted less than an hour. A choir of 4 sang music chosen by Prince Philip, but were some distance from the seated guests, in line with public health guidelines. Near the end of the service, the last post was played by musicians from Britain's Royal Marines before military buglers had one final task. As planned by Prince Philip, the buglers sounded so-called action stations, a call used on naval warships to summon crew to battle readiness. His body was interred in the Royal Vault in St. George's Chapel. Flags in Britain that have flown at half-staff at royal residencies since his death will remain that way until Sunday. A rift that should be cleared. As things stand now, the rift in the royal family is out in the open. With the interview for the Oprah Winfrey Show, Harry and Meghan have made it clear that all is not well between the brothers. Earlier, the Queen and Kate had all voiced their opinion and concern as matters seemed to deteriorate between William and Harry. Reports have emerged that both Meghan and Harry had a private discussion with the Queen after the death of Prince Philip. It was also said that Kate played a peacemaker between the brothers. Harry had attended the funeral alone, as Meghan was advised against travel due to her pregnancy. Considering the fondness between the two, it seems that Kate would be one of the few people and family members who can actually push for a stalemate between the brothers. Let us wait and see what the future then holds for the royal family, as now the Queen is alone, without her partner and most loyal support. That's all for today, guys. Hope you all enjoyed watching the video. If you did, hit that like button. Thanks for watching.